Hello and welcome back to this bonus episode of the SlideLock Podcast. I'm your host, William Reitchel. This podcast is where we deep dive into all things related to the security industry. Join us as we dive deep into discussing training options, analyzing statutes, real-world scenarios, and exploring the practical application of the Texas Penal Code for the security professionals. Whether you're a seasoned officer or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Today's episode is about the upcoming November 5th election and why this particular election is more important than ever. Let's talk about what's at stake and why electing pro-police, anti-crime officials can be the difference between order and chaos in our communities. Let's dive in. Now, I know we've all seen the headlines over the last few years, the protests, the riots, the unsettling rising crime across the many cities of our nation. From the tragic events surrounding George Floyd to the unrest we saw in places like Kenosha, Wisconsin during the Kyle Rittenhouse incident, to the complete loss of control that we saw in Chaz in the Seattle, Washington area. These weren't isolated situations. They were worse. They were a sign of something far deeper, and the rippling effect of those events are still being felt today. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. It's either divine intervention or coincidence that this year's election falls on November 5th. But we have an opportunity to make our voices heard and stand up for law and order by electing officials who will take a strong stance against crime and support our law enforcement officers. From county sheriffs to district attorney, judges, and city officials, every elected position matters. These are the people who determine how laws are enforced, how crimes are prosecuted, and ultimately how safe we all feel when we step out of our homes each day. Let's start with the role of the county sheriff. Now, the sheriff's office is unique because it's not just another part of the local government. It's a position that's sworn to uphold the Constitution and protect our communities from those who would undermine it. It's absolutely critical to elect sheriffs who have proven themselves to be dedicated, tough-on-crime leaders. They are the first line of defense, the ones who ensure communities remain safe and that the rule of law is respected. They are the shield between the people of the county and government overreach. When there is a breakdown in the support or in the defense and prosecution of the law, the citizens are the ones that feel the repercussions from the increase in crime and tyranny. The same goes for the district attorney and the local judges. We need DAs who will actually prosecute criminals, not let them off with a slap on the wrist or a ridiculous promise to appear summons. This revolving door of justice where violent offenders are back on the street in days is fueling this cycle of crime. Judges must uphold the law, not rewrite it to suit a political agenda. We need officials who interpret the law based on what it says and not what they wish it said. We have seen a massive increase in crime due to the catch and release policies of liberal America. As a security officer enforcing the law where an incident produces a detention and/or arrest, the officer shouldn't have to wonder if the police are going to take custody and process the charge. I have personally transferred custody of a detained subject to only have the police write them a promise to appear citation, then release them. I have even had local police officers call the DA's office right in front of me, and the DA's office refused to charge them. They weren't even going to prosecute, and they told the officer to release them. It's mind-blowing and a complete contradiction to common sense. Think back to the civil unrest we witnessed during the BLM riots. Cities were burning, businesses were being looted, and people's livelihoods were being destroyed. And what was the response from city leaders? Calls to defund the police. A mindset that put our brave officers' safety and livelihoods at risk and left civilians vulnerable. This cannot happen again. If you're complaining about the quality of the police now, how does it make any sense to defund them and take away the opportunity for more training? It doesn't make any sense. So what's the solution? It's time to stand up and vote for common sense candidates. Candidates who respect the Constitution, who believe in enforcing laws, and who will support the men and women in uniform who keep our streets safe. We can't afford to let liberal ideologies dictate our approach to law and order any longer. We must have moral leaders. And we also need leaders who will prioritize safety and rule of law over political correctness and wokeness. And it's not just about casting your vote on November 5th. It's about getting involved now, going out into your community, talking to your neighbors, and sharing why this election matters. If you know someone on the fence, have a conversation with them. Remind them of the importance of electing officials who will keep our communities safe. We need more than just your vote. We need your voice. Just like Mark said in chapter 16, go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Because if we do not stand up for what's right now, we could be looking at more of the same. More riots, more crime, and more division. It's time to push back and restore order to ensure that justice is served and that criminals are held accountable. This November 5th, vote for the candidates who will keep our communities safe and who will defend the Constitution and who will support and defend law and order. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. And together we can make a difference. So mark your calendars, do your research, and choose law and order on November 5th. Get out there and vote early if you can, but don't wait until the last minute. That's it for today's bonus deep dive on the SlideLock Podcast. Hope you found this information valuable. Remember, it's your career. Take charge of it and strive for excellence. Join us every other Thursday evening for more insights into the security industry, where we'll break down training options, interpret legal jargon, and discuss real-world scenarios. I'm William Reitchel. Thank you for tuning into the SlideLock Podcast. You can listen in wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to like, follow, and share. Message us with any comments, questions, or topics you'd like for us to cover and explore. Remember, stay safe, stay informed, and stay ahead.